Hey everybody. Hey Facebook, what's up? Hey Instagram, what's up? Happy Tuesday, May 15th. Happy new moon. It is a gorgeous day here in Los Angeles. I hope that wherever you are, that you are happy, healthy, and smiling. And this is the sort of mid-month energy transmission. I know it's been a while since I've done like a mid-month update, so I don't even really know what to call this, but let's just call this mid-month energy transmission new moon edition. It is the new moon in Taurus today. We have a lot of planets in Taurus. And you know, it's kind of an interesting time right now energetically, and I have some things I want to share with you as always. I have some things I want to talk about as always, and you know, I've had this inspiration to do this video kind of rolling around in my head for the past couple of days, and then this morning when I woke up, I was like, "Yep, okay, today's the day we're gonna do it." And then of course I'm thinking, well, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna do? Blah 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 blah. There's all these expectations, all these, you know, blah blah blah. I'm just putting all this pressure on myself, which is such an earth sign thing. And with the moon in Taurus, it's no surprise because Taurus loves routine. Taurus wants to do like the same old, give me the routine, give me the pattern, give me the familiar, give me the predictable. Taurus loves that comfort. Taurus loves earthly, physical stuff, and we are absolutely in the realm of the physical right now. So I'm gonna talk about all of this and what the new moon is bringing in today's energy transmission. And I don't really think I have any reminders. Normally I have like a list of events and things that are happening before we get into it. The only one that I want to take a second to remind you of is for those of you who are in Los Angeles, the first Friday of every month, I have my sound healing circle at House of Intuition in Los Angeles, the location on Sunset. And it's from 7 to 8:30, the first Friday of every month. So the next one is coming up on, I think it's June 3rd or 4th, whatever that first Friday is. So I just want to remind you of that. Oh, also, I have recently just reopened my mastery mentorship. I've just completed my last group of clients, and as a reminder, I only do 4 at a time. And so now the mastery mentorship is open for enrollment. Go to andrewmartin.energy, click on the mastery mentorship tab. You'll read all about it. And I think that's really all that I have to share in terms of announcements. Of course, I will always leave all of the details in the description so that you can find all the links and all of that. Also, if you're interested in staying on top of all of this stuff, you can sign up for my newsletter, which is really the easiest way to do it. Again, andrewmartin.energy, and click on the subscribe tab, and it'll take you to the field. You enter your information to receive my newsletters. But I think that's it in terms of announcements. And really, you know, the information that I want to share with you today is kind of all over the place. You know, I've gotten more and more into, you know, paying closer attention to astrological aspects, because as these energies continue to build, and as we continue to integrate and sort of merge with our higher aspects, and as we continue to expand and breathe life into this new earth that we are currently living on, PS, by the way, things become more and more interesting and more fascinating, and I just see the connections in all things in really new and clear ways. So, new moon. Give me a thumbs up, give me a heart emoji, give me some love if you're ready for this new moon, if you're ready to plant some seeds, if you're ready to find a new way, if you're ready to see a new path, if you're ready to ask some questions that can bring you some clarity. And today's transmission really is a lot of questions. I hate to disappoint you. And I know that so many of you are always looking for answers, but it's really the questions that are interesting. It's the questions where we create. It is the questions that activate that field of infinite potential and begin to create something out of it. So in many ways, and I've talked about this before, in many ways, our curiosity right now is our greatest asset. I want to talk to you for just a brief second about the idea of manifestation and creation. And I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I can. Because sometimes, I'll be totally honest, manifestation is one of those things that still really fucking confuses me, which maybe you find ironic, being, as I am, touting myself as a spiritual teacher or a spiritual guide. But raise your hand. I mean, if you are one of those people also that like manifestation sometimes gets a little confusing, and it's like, well, what exactly is manifestation and how does it happen? So thumbs up or a heart if you too also find yourself confused about it from time to time. Here is the simplest way that I can describe manifestation in my current understanding, and that fucking understanding may change be completely different by next week, because it's an amazing thing as we're moving up out of these layers of density and leaving that 3D experience behind. The things that used to be true, or the things that used to function in the way that they did, don't always function in that way anymore. And truth is shifting, and truth is always fluid. And I say this all the time, only you know what truth feels like. And where we are right now with all of these energetic impulses coming in, and all of this, this influx of energy and frequency coming in as we're continuing to rise, and as our higher self, soul self, is continuing to descend and meet with us. Because that's really all that's happening. Ascension is sort of misleading. We're not ascending. The energies are ascending and we are moving with them. But really what's happening is we're clearing out all this density and this stuff in our field and on our planet so that the higher frequencies can descend and move in. Anyway, so the field of potential is the field of all things. It is the field that binds it all together. And the field of potential is just a soup of electromagnetic impulses and particles and frequencies. And the field of potential it is inert. The field of potential just exists. And it is our emotions that activate the field of potential and turn those electromagnetic impulses into something, right? So it is our curiosity about another way that begins to manifest it. It is our curiosity about what else is possible that creates what else is possible. It is our curiosity about how else can I do this that begins to open up the path to the answer of how else it can be done. Our natural state, our innate sense of sort of just being in our natural state, is one of neutrality. Believe it or not, our natural state of being is one of just a neutral flow. I am neither high heights of emotions or low depths of emotions. Certainly the pendulum swings really high and then sometimes swings really low. But our natural state is just being. Free from expectation, free from story, free from any big, powerful emotional experience. Certainly there are really joyful moments, and certainly there are really dark, deep, heavy moments. But we're not always hanging out there. And I find that oftentimes in spiritual circles, we have this idea, or we sort of create this idea, that I should always be in a state of joy. I should always be joyful and happy, and I should always be up here running at this really high frequency. Girl, you would wipe yourself out and deplete yourself out. You'd be dead in a week if you were always trying to maintain this really, really high frequency. So our innate state of being is neutral. Right? If you think of the river is just flowing. It is always seeking the path of least resistance, and it is just flowing. It is not in resistance to anything. It is not attached to anything. It is not seeking anything. It just is. And it is when we have a big peak emotional experience, right? If I'm feeling really joyful or really sad, that intense energetic impulse of my emotions is what activates the field of potential. It sort of puts it on notice that okay, Andrew's feeling something. He's emitting a really strong frequency. All of a sudden, he went from neutral to really, really high in frequency. So we got, it gets the attention of the field. It creates a spike or an impulse. And the more sustained that feeling is, and the more intense that feeling is, the bigger and more powerful the response will be. What is the point of this, you're asking me? The point of this is we don't always have to be so twisted up about something, or so worked up about something, or all knotted up about something in order to be living our life, doing our thing, walking our path, and creating. So just be. Just be present. Just be where you are. And I say this all the time, and it's true, because in the moment, I have access to all that is ever occurring. It's always only right here and right now. This new moon in Taurus is got a really interesting aspect to it, and that is that Uranus just entered Taurus a couple of hours after the new moon. We've also got, I think, Mars or Mercury. I think it's Mercury. So we've got 4 or 5 planets in Taurus right now. Taurus is all about the physical plane. Taurus is all about touch it, taste it, feel it, smell it, hear it, experience it through the body in the physical experience of being a human on the planet. Taurus loves routine. Taurus loves to indulge. Taurus loves the earth. Taurus is a feminine aspect. Taurus is that really, really full, really ripe, really earthy experience of being in our body, being in the physical. Now, Uranus is the opposite of routine. Uranus is the opposite of the stable pattern that the earthy Taurus loves. Uranus is rebellious, it is disruptive, it likes to separate, it likes to challenge, it loves to fucking rock the boat and stir the pot. So how do these two seemingly polar opposite frequencies work together? What does that mean for me, for you, for us? What that means is asking yourself, how else can I get shit done? That's just the tip of the iceberg. It is also being aware of the fact that Taurus really wants to just go to the routine. And what did we just exit? That Scorpio moon and Aries, which is all about Scorpio moon was all about emotional, who am I, what's going on, opening that up, really digging in. And then Aries is all about who am I? What is my sense of self? What is my identity? Full speed ahead, focused, deliberate, intense. So we're on the other side of this, and in many ways we are in this new landscape that doesn't make any sense at all. Many of you have reached out to me either, through social media or email or in our sessions one-on-one, and you have told me, Andrew, nothing makes sense anymore. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. I don't know, I sort of know where I am, but I don't really know how to navigate this landscape. It's like all of a sudden I'm in this world that looks familiar, but none of the rules are the same anymore. Everything has changed and I don't know how to navigate. And so when we are in these experiences of being in this new reality that we have birthed, that is here, but we don't know how to find ourselves in the midst of it, what is the tendency? Especially in Taurus energy, especially if you're an earth sign like me, hello, triple Virgo. The tendency is to want to go back to the old ways, even if the old ways didn't work anymore, if they don't feel good, if they're not super functional, if we don't really know. So many of us are finding ourselves in the same place. Like, I've been here before, this feels familiar, but I am completely different within it. And so we have a tendency to want to go back to the old way because that's what Taurus seeks, stability and routine. But Uranus is saying, nope, can't do that. You got to find a new way to access your routine. You got to find a new way to find your comfort zone. You got to find a new way to call stuff into manifestation. So we're being asked to do the same thing, but in a completely new way. I'm going to share with you a brief experience that I have personally been going through. And by the way, can we just take a second to acknowledge this? Raise your hand or give me a heart, show me some love, give me an emoji if your question lately has been WTF am I and how did I get here? Because it's like we suddenly woke up in bizarro world, right? Like everything sort of looks the same, but it's upside down, or it's so strange right now. And it's like we don't even have words to explain where we are. It's like I can feel it, and if I could telepathically send to you my experience, I know you would totally get it, but I don't really have words for it. I just posted something about this on my Instagram and Facebook, Andrew Martin Energy, little plug there, about how just because you don't have words for your feelings or language for your feelings doesn't mean that they're not valid. Sometimes we just got to feel what we feel, even if we don't know how to explain it or express it, we don't understand it. But for me personally, what this is bringing up for me is in many ways I am finding myself in exactly the same place that I was 2 years ago but it's not the same. And here's what I mean by that. For those of you who've been following me for a while, you know I recently moved back to LA. I've been here for like 2 or 3 months now. I'm loving it. I'm so happy to be here. It is like the best move I've ever made. And I've made a lot of moves. And I've started doing my days at House of Intuition. I do Wednesdays and Thursdays, and every other Saturday I'm doing in-person clients there. So if you want to see me in person, come to LA at House of Intuition. And it struck me the other day, I was like, I have been here before, not here as in LA and House of Intuition, but I've been in this place before where I'm working at the bookstore, I'm seeing my private clients, I'm starting to build my practice. It feels in many ways like I have just begun. It feels in many ways like the past 6 years of my practice have only been training, have really only been, it's kind of like that scene in The Matrix when Neo is learning jujitsu and kung fu and all of that, and they're putting all those programs in his head, and he's having the experience of fighting Morpheus in the dojo, but it's not really happening. That's kind of how I have felt. And lately I have been very aware of, I have been given almost like a do-over. It's almost like we have a do-over to do things in a completely new way. And what I have realized is that the only thing that matters right now is my practice. And I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about intention and the power of intention, and how this is really time, or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it was time to really ask those questions. Why am I doing this? What was my intention in the first place? Why did I get into this to begin with? Why did I say yes to this in the first place? Like really, when I peel it all back and scrape all the stuff away, what is really at the core of this? So I've gotten my intentions, I've gotten really clear over the past couple of weeks that my job is to walk the path of service, and yes, I like getting paid for my work, and yes, I like money and all the things that money affords me, but I didn't get into this for money. Yes, I like the likes and the shares and the follows and the reblogs and the posts and all of that, but I didn't get into this for that. That wasn't the point. The point of all of this was, number one, my work saved my life. If I hadn't said yes to this path, I would probably be dead or close to dead. And I don't say that to be dramatic. So when I started this path, it was because I had no other choice. It was because the way I had done things wasn't working anymore, and the only choice I had was same old shit down a path that's going to get darker and darker and darker, or take the turn that has not been taken before and start to walk the path of purpose. And I did, and I have been. But in many ways, it feels like up until this point, I was really just kind of working out all the kinks and getting everything sort of sorted and figuring it out and going through training. And now I sit here with an opportunity to do it in a new way. And that is to get really, 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 really crystal clear on what feels correct for me. So these are the questions we can ask ourselves on this new moon. These are the questions that we can ask ourselves as Uranus enters Taurus for the next 6-7 years. And by the way, get ready for complete and total shakedown of a lot of things on our planet over the next 6 to 7 years. Shit's gonna go down. And I'm not saying that I have specific intel or have received any information. I just feel it in my gut. Besides the fact that every time Uranus changes signs, it is a huge upheaval. That's what Uranus does. So on the precipice of this do-over that we have, it's very easy to get sucked into this idea of oh God, same shit, different day, here we go again. No. Resist the temptation to be jaded or bitter about the fact that you may be seeing a lot of chronic patterns emerge in your life, or that you find yourself back in the same place that you were 6 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. What do you value? Not what do you think you should say, not what do you think you should value because your church told you or your mom told you or your boss told you or your whoever told you you should value these things, but what do you value? What is important to you? What is the whole point of all of this? Why do you wake up in the morning? What do you think is important in your life? What are you waking up for? What are you, getting out of bed and drinking the coffee and taking the shower and putting on the clothes for? Are you living your life? Or are you living a life that you've been told you should live? Are you living your truth? Or are you trying to fulfill someone else's idea of truth because you think it will give you brownie points, or they'll like you more, or they'll approve of you more, or they'll give you the love that you never got? And look, I am not judging any of those reasons. I get it. But whose moral code are you living by, and why? When did you decide that the life that you have is the life that you want? And if it's not, when are you going to decide to choose something else? The heart, the soul self, has no story, has no agenda aside from expansion through experience, right? That's all Source is really seeking, Source is always in a state of becoming. We are always in a state of becoming. We are always in a state of transformation. That's how it works. So whose life am I becoming? Whose version of Andrew am I becoming? When we are free from limitation, what is possible? Seriously. If there were no limitations, what would you do? It's that question of, if I gave you a magic wand, what kind of life would you recreate for yourself? These questions are so supported under this Tauran energy. I was talking with a friend the other day. He's also an entrepreneur and does this work. And we were talking about, being an entrepreneur and being in charge of your business and having to do it all yourself. Sometimes you get in this cycle of, I gotta, time to make the donuts, I gotta do it, it's like there's always a to-do list in my head, and it never really gets any shorter. It's just always in a process of becoming. But we were talking the other day about, he was saying how, he was in the process of making some decisions about his business, and he was thinking like, okay, this is the next thing I should do, right? On the path that I have been and on the model that I have built for my business, this is the next logical step. But he was really asking himself like, but do I really want to do this? Do I really want to bring in a business partner? Do I really want to, And so there is the left brain, the logical, rational self, that Tauran aspect that will say, this is the next logical step. Go from point A to point B. This is the thing you should do. And all sources of information from the outside, right? Your business partner, your manager, your family, your friends, your parents, your boss, whoever, telling you, yes, this makes sense. This is the next logical step. Do this. And he thought about it, and he was talking to a couple of people, asking them, a couple of people, who were potential business partners for him. And after he went through all of this thing of finding the people to talk to about business partnerships, getting all the information together, starting to sort of sketch out these other business plans and start to think of other alternative ways to build his business, he just realized, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's not at all remotely interesting to me. It doesn't feel interesting to me. It doesn't feel fulfilling to me. It doesn't feel exciting to me. I'm not even barely curious about it. So he asked himself, whose business model am I trying to sustain here? Whose requirements am I trying to meet? Whose questions am I trying to answer? Whose life am I trying to live? Whose favor am I trying to win? Whose approval am I so desperate for? These are the questions that we can ask. Are we still holding ourselves hostage according to someone else's ideas or plans or stories? The heart, the soul self is always free from story. It is only the head that ever has a story. And our stories always dictate how we behave in the world. Because my story tells me that I am this or I am that. So depending on who I am this or I am that, that is going to tell me how I should act. Same thing goes for other people. If I believe you're helpless and stupid, that is how I'm going to treat you. You very well may not be helpless and stupid, but if I believe that you are, to me, you are helpless and stupid, and I will never be able to treat you any other way. The point of all of this, my friends, is, are you ready to sit in that seat of sovereignty? This fifth dimensional experience, this new earth that we are living in, regardless of what that world out there might tell you, we are here. We have built it. We have arrived. And you just can't get shit done unless you are being really, really clear and really, really honest and really, really true with yourself and how you feel. If something doesn't feel right, why are you doing it? Sure, you could make a decision and say, yep, that's going to get me $50,000 or $100,000 or $200,000. But if you don't feel good about it, if the choice makes you feel horrible and trapped in your life and it feels like something's just not right? It's just that feeling of like, did I leave the oven on? Did I leave the iron on? Did I leave the water running? Something's not right. If you don't want to, if you're not feeling it, why are you doing it? And you might say, well, I have to pay the mortgage and I have to pay the bills. And yeah, those are very, very valid. I'm not saying go out and quit your job tomorrow. What I am saying is now is the opportunity to say, universe, show me a way to get what I love, to get what I want, to get what I need, and feel good about doing it. Do you believe it's possible to be successful financially, have all the things that you require, have an amazing life, and also love what you do? Or do you buy into this idea that, well, work is work, and I do it for 40 hours a week, and I fucking hate it, and I suffer, but it's good money, and I make, I've got stability, and I've got insurance and benefits and all that. Great, but if you fucking hate your life, what's the point? What good is it? At some point, we've got to start asking these questions. At some point, we've got to start living these questions. And at some point, we've got to be willing to sit with ourselves and be honest. In the absence of limitation, what is now possible? It's a really, really good question. Whose life are you living? Whose truth are you living? Whose agenda are you serving? Whose bottom line are your blood, sweat, and tears going to? So when you start to ask these questions, you will be given, I promise you, when you start to ask these questions, you will be given the breadcrumbs that will lead you in the direction of the answers. And it will not always be easy, convenient, and comfortable. You have heard me say this a million times. There is no guarantee that life is going to be easy, convenient, and comfortable. And if you think it is, get fucking comfortable. Because you're going to be sitting here for a long time. We came here for an experience that would match our abilities as master creators. And here we are in this playing field that has completely been leveled, and we can actually start to get our hands in it and to actively create it. Now is the time. Here's another question. If today is not the day when you start living your truth, when is? The experience of time is going to pass whether or not you like it. The experience of going from 27 to 28 to 29 to 30 to 30, that linear progression of time is going to continue. Whether or not you are living your life is entirely up to you. It's like Bashar says, what happens to you is not important. What you do with what happens to you is what's important. So, ask the questions, live the questions, and be willing to follow the breadcrumbs when they start to show up. I think that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Go to andrewmartin.energy. You can book a session with me there. You can find me at House of Intuition in Los Angeles Wednesdays, Thursdays, and every other Saturday. My my sound healing circle is the first Friday of every month at House of Intuition. I'm also doing a monthly online version. Go to andrewmartin.energy, sign up for my newsletter. You'll get all of this information and more. Thank you for watching. Happy new moon. I love you. Mwah!